Hi guys, my name is Mark Knight and you're listening to the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Us People podcast. I'm your host Savia Rocks, and today I've got Mark Knight with us. Hey Mark, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, cool, perfect. How's your day been going so far?
Very relaxed. It's a rare day off, so it's actually been just been a stroll around the block to the post office and come back. So it's my daily exercise.
That's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. So Mark, I've got some facts about you.
Okay.
So you're the founder of Right Chord Music.
That's right, yeah.
And also you've had over 10 years experience as a artist manager. And also 20 years experience as a marketing consultant.
Makes me sound really old, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's true. You're not old, don't say that. Hey, you've got wisdom. Just put it that way.
Okay, yeah.
You've got
get
wisdom.
Better with age.
Exactly. We all get better with age, I hope. So tell me a little about, because you're the founder of Right Chord Music, tell me a little bit about how it actually started.
Sure. So Right Chord Music started really as a music blog. Well, it still is a music blog, but it started as a music blog back in about 2010. And I was working with a band called Black Chords from Australia, hence Right Chord, Black Chords. And what I kind of realised quite quickly is if you only talk about one band to your friends all the time, they get really bored. So I decided if I set up a music blog and wrote about other bands and then occasionally just threw Black Chords into the mix, it could be a good way to kind of disguise my my promotional efforts, really. So it kind of went from there, it's kind of evolved, and we've now got a podcast. We've got a kind of spin-off company, which is
I'm going to talk about that as well.
And lots of stuff as well. But that's kind of how it started. Black Chords, basically, from Australia.
What about the Daydream Club? Tell us a little bit about that, because apparently you were nominated for an award and being the only unsigned artist. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's
perfect.
So they were a band who I started managing probably a couple of years after Black Chords. An independent self-released duo from Leicester, Adam and Paula, who are now very good friends of mine. And basically, they did all the things that every artist is told to do. So they, try to get their music on the radio, try to get the music into kind of press, and play lots of live shows. And we had a bit of an epiphany a few years later, probably about a couple of years into the project, where we sort of said, is it working? And we kind of came to the conclusion that it really wasn't, because they were spending a ton of money. I think we worked out £3,000 or £4,000 each time they put out a single or any form of release. And actually, when we looked at the kind of the play count or what kind of money coming back in, thinking of it as a business, it just wasn't really stacking up. So we kind of said, well, let's do something completely different. So we stopped all kind of paid promotion, so no PR people, no radio pluggers, actually pretty much stopped gigs as well to a certain extent, and focused all our efforts on Spotify, and said to the band, we're going to do one thing, which is tell your fans repeatedly the way to listen to your music is Spotify. And that was kind of an unfashionable thing to do at the time, because I think it was sort of around the era when people like Taylor Swift was taking their music off Spotify, and obviously we were championing it. And I think a lot of fans were still sort of going, well, Spotify's not good for artists, it's not paying you enough. And we were kind of our perspective as well, we've never been paid enough, because we've never had 4 million album sales on CD. So actually, if we can get a piece of money, a bit of money for every time someone plays our song, it's better, right? So that's all we did really religiously for probably a couple of years. And the band hit 1 million streams on Spotify. And
I was reading that. That's excellent.
Which is pretty amazing as an unsigned band. And then it kind of spiraled from there. So Spotify kind of got hold of that story and kind of supported us. And I think within the next month, they'd got another 1 million plays in a month, basically, by being put on to Spotify playlists, and it just spiraled. So the awards, we had, we were nominated for Best Digital Artist at the Music Ally Awards, and also an award they were nominated for at the Unsung Music Awards as well, which was just a great recognition really of what they were doing. But it's just carried on. So they've now got to the point now where they've got over 100 million streams on Spotify, which is pretty amazing. So they kind of
So
earn a
you've
living
basically given them
from.
a chance to
Yeah,
make money out of what they're doing.
yeah, exactly. It's basically, I think we got to the point where we said, we're going to lose money, and if they carry on losing money, we'd have to stop making music. So
Yeah.
we said, well, how do we find a way to enable them to carry on making music, and turn it into sort of something which is financially sustainable? And that's kind of what we did. It's tough because obviously things change, right? So Spotify can take a track off a playlist, and that can have a huge impact. But they've had incredible success over the last 5 or 6 years purely from Spotify, and off the back of that, you start getting offers for sync. So music's been used in films and TV and all this kind of stuff as well. So the strategy kind of really paid off, and I think that approach really kind of led to the things I do with other artists with major label, I guess.
That's a lot. That's really good. So you've got like 20 years of experience when it comes to media and partnership and marketing strategies. What is your typical day like? Because it seems quite hectic when it comes to promoting brands and bands. How do you handle it all?
Well, so the music stuff is all kind of at the moment a sort of side hustle, if you like. It's kind of the thing I do before work, after work, and any gaps in between work. The job that pays the mortgage and kind of puts food in the fridge is as a marketing strategist. So that's kind of my profession, if you like. I'd love music to be a full-time gig, and I'm kind of edging towards that being the case, but it's going to take time.
From what I've researched about you and what you do, especially for other people, I can see you doing it professionally forever because of how you do it.
Yeah, it's getting there. I think it's really busy. I think the day-to-day kind of life as a media or marketing strategist is really varied. I work for a company called Wavemaker, which is part of Group M and part of WPP.
I read about them.
So a big media agency, and obviously at the moment, especially every industry is kind of hugely affected by COVID-19. So a lot of our clients, obviously travel brands, have just stopped spending money. Full stop. They can't travel, they can't advertise or anything like that. We've got some companies who are doing really well out of it, but obviously most of them are really struggling. So my job at the moment is really planning what their marketing and media will look like next year, which is incredibly difficult to do because obviously no one really knows what's going to happen. So
that's true.
Like scenario planning, working out how media consumption is changing on a near weekly basis at the moment. So whether TV is still going to be the biggest channel. The last few weeks we've seen everyone come back to TV, and obviously people are stuck at home. So it's attracting younger audiences who previously probably on YouTube. Things like podcasts have been going up because again, content, people are listening to content, social content has been going up. So it's just kind of keeping an eye on how it all evolves and helping them make smart decisions about where to place their media and in their marketing investments, basically.
How important is it to know about marketing, and what advice would you give to other people who have a business but don't know too much about marketing?
It's I think it's kind of fundamental. I think going back to the musicians again, I think part of the realization, I think if you are a musician, is you've got to think of it as a business.
Of course.
I think the quicker you can kind of get to that point where you realize that you've got a balance sheet and you've got money coming in, money coming out, and you need to work out how you're going to make a sustained income from what you do and whether it's working. Because I remember years ago working with an artist who was really excited because they'd been paid £150 to play a gig at the Barfly in London, and then we said, okay, well, so let's work out what you've made from this show. And they'd had £150 for a band, so that was divided by 4, and then we worked out they'd had to hire an amp, they'd had a taxi there and back, they'd went out for dinner because they were ready to play the gig, and before you lost money, and it's like, well, if you don't keep a track of that, I don't understand that, then you're not going to succeed really. So I mean, marketing basically is just fulfilling the needs of people, right? So giving people what they want when they want it in a really basic way. So having a product that people want, or finding people who want your product is kind of key to everything really. So good targeting, good communication, and finding that audience. And I think, the internet allows you, social media allows you to, in theory, get close to so many different niches of people, people who can be interested in anything. You can find, so it's a challenge, and it's an exciting challenge, I think, trying to connect people to music or to brands or whatever it might be.
How did you actually get into music? So what actually made you think, okay, this is music, I love music? Or was it something that you was pushed into from family or from family members or friends? Or was it something that you actually said, I love doing this, I love being able to help people, I want to get into music? How did you actually start?
Sure. Well, actually, it goes back to Black Chord. So I actually used to live with the lead singer, Nick, years ago in
Ah,
London. And
yeah,
when he was living with us, we lived in a big share house. I knew he was musically talented, but he very rarely played or did anything. And he
yeah,
then moved back to Australia and sent me this sort of DVD and said, "This is my first single. What do you think of it? I'd love to get your thoughts on it." And I was
yeah.
expecting it to be awful, which sounds dreadful. But that thing when a friend gives you something and you're like, "Oh God, what if it's really bad? How am I going to tell them?" And it was this music video which actually got them signed, and it was beautifully made film for a song called Broken Bones. And I watched this
That's a
video,
really
and
nice title as well.
it's just, you can almost imagine how beautiful the song is by the name,
Yeah,
I think, sometimes.
yeah.
And I remember watching it at the end of my bed, thinking, "Oh my God, I've got to get involved with this somehow. And how do I? What do I do to help this?" And I think at the time, I've always loved music, but I can't play an instrument for love nor money. I have no musical ability whatsoever. But I think it's
Oh,
sort of the worlds collided, because I thought, well, I'm a marketeer, and I love
yeah.
sort of digital media. So I was like,
Well, you
well,
have a passion for it. You can see
yeah,
that you have
yeah,
a passion for what you do. Even when you're talking about it now, you can hear that you have a passion for it. And once you have that, that in
yeah,
itself is a
exactly.
talent.
So yeah, I think it was quite easy at that point. It was just saying, well, I'll do the bit you don't want to do and can't do. So like, you
Yeah.
focus on the music, I'll do the marketing, and then see where we get with it. And say they went on to get signed by Universal in Australia, and actually just reformed in the last about 3 or 4 months as well. So they're kind of coming back to do more stuff. So that's exciting as well. So that's kind of how it started, really. Yeah, a chance connection, I guess.
Hey, it was meant to be. Everyone
Mm.
says sometimes it's a chance, but I always believe that if it was meant to be for you, it will be for you. So
Yeah,
that's a
totally.
really good thing. Who is your inspiration when it comes to the music business? So come away from marketing for a second and you go into the music business itself. Who would you say inspires you to do what you do within music?
Well, I used to go to a club night in Islington, um,
Yeah,
underneath a pub called the Famous Cock Pub, a really grotty little pub.
I think
And
I've heard of that actually.
yeah, it's right on the corner by the tube station, and there's a bar underneath, which at the time it was called the Basement Bar, tiny little bar. And I think once a month, on a Thursday, I think it was, there was these live music events, and put on by a guy called Tim Dello and Toby L. You may have come across, I don't know, but they went on to launch Transgressive Records and Block Party and Foals and all these kind of people.
Yeah, that's it.
For
Yeah.
probably, I don't even know, let's say 2 or 3 years, I was kind of a religious sort of disciple of their live show. I would go along and just discover all these amazing bands, and I saw in that time people like Subways and Magic Numbers and
Yeah.
you name it. Like, every good band went through that club thing, really. And Toby, at the time, I don't even know how old he was. He was ridiculously young. He was probably a sort of teenager. Had this blog called Rock Feedback, which is still going, and Transgressive was just in its early days. I was like, what am I doing? Like, how has he done this and I've not done anything? So I'd honestly say it was. I don't know if he knows the story, but I would say it's Toby L was a big inspiration, I think, just because of like, well,
Oh,
if he can do it, then why shouldn't I? So um,
yeah.
that's probably the honest story, I think.
It's nice when somebody else can inspire you to look within yourself to do something positive, because I find that a lot of people find it difficult to find what they actually love to do.
Yeah,
So it's nice being able to have somebody else to pull it out of you.
yeah, totally.
Tell
Yeah.
us yeah, tell us a little bit about the Takeover Festival, because I remember when I was messaging you, you was doing the festival at the time.
Yeah.
I know. And you was like, Savia, it's a little bit hectic right now. But, give me a message maybe next week and we'll get on it. And I thought that was beautiful because I knew that you was busy, but you still made time to want to be on the podcast. And that's what the podcast is about. It's about being able to help people just like you do yourself.
Yeah.
And I always like to fit my schedule all around other people to help and promote them as well. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about the festival, the Takeover Festival,
Sure.
and how was it for you?
Exhausting. It was amazing, but it was exhausting. So it started. Well, so if I go back a little bit, I actually
Yeah.
ran. I believe I'm going to say this is true. So it might not be true, but the first online only music festival, which was in 2013, which was on Google Hangouts. Google told me it was the first, so I'm going to go with them. And I did another one in 2017 on Facebook, and then when
Wow.
sort of the whole kind of lockdown started, I thought, this is a really good time to bring it back, because
Yeah.
from a slightly selfish point of view, I was like, I can't really imagine a summer without live music. I go to a lot of gigs and festivals.
Oh, I agree with you.
So I was like, right, I'm going to do something about it. So it just kind of snowballed. So probably in 5 weeks, we went from a kind of an idea, which was this idea of bands taking over the Right Chord Music Facebook page to play live to people at home, right? To having, we ended up with 49 artists from I think 12 or 30 different countries around the world. We had Badly Drawn Boy headlining. We had Mark King from Level 42 headlining on the Sunday night. We had Katie Melua and we had King Charles. But alongside the kind of established artists, we had the kind of heartland of Right Chord Music, which is just unsigned independent artists who are brilliant and need to get their music heard. So it was epic. And then we had the fortune of working with Nordhoff Robbins music therapy charity. So it just seemed a really good fit, because their whole thing is about the power of music to connect, and people with Alzheimer's or people who have had sort of traumas or kind of heartbreak in their life, and get kind of use music to kind of awaken them, if you like. And I thought, well, in a time of
To help
isolation,
heal them.
it just seemed so perfect. So and they were struggling as well, because physical events are really how they make money, and obviously they couldn't do that. So I said I would support them. And then Bose came on board, which is just absolutely amazing. So Bose headphones came on board and said, we want to help you support Nordhoff Robbins and help support independent artists. So they gave some money to really help promote the festival, kind of pre-festival, but most importantly from the artist point of view, post-festival. So after each performance, we were able to kind of boost those audiences for each of those artists, so more people could come in and actually hear them. So I said at the start, I wanted each of the independent artists to have an audience of 1,000 people, which is quite modest. But if you think about an independent artist playing a gig in a pub or a venue, often they might have less than 100. So 1,000 was a good start point. And I think yesterday, I think it was, collectively we went over 500,000 plays for all the artists playing at the festival. So I think I need to work out the average, but I think most of them are around about 15,000. So, which is again just absolutely phenomenal. So huge thanks to Bose, but also all the other people who were involved in helping put it together. But it was brilliant, but it was exhausting, because I was literally glued to my computer for Friday, Saturday, Sunday from midday to sort of 9 o'clock. Every half an hour we had another artist.
Vision after it.
Yeah. It was, technology was, we had Google Chrome apparently had released a new update midway on Saturday, which meant people's laptop webcams weren't working. So we had to kind of adapt to that. We had hackers trying to hack the event. We had all sorts of things. But we kind of came through it. So, and raised some money for Nordhoff Robbins. I think raised about just over £4,000 for Nordhoff Robbins as well, which is pretty amazing.
Oh wow! Yeah, that is excellent. Oh, perfect. If you had one artist that you wish you could work with, who would it be, and why would you choose that artist to work with? I know it's a hard one.
Yeah. Well, I guess my favourite band of all time is probably Radiohead. And I think Radiohead have always done interesting things. So I think from that perspective, it would probably have to be them, because I think, I like the fact they approach every release in a different way and think about what they could do with it. They're not kind of cookie cutter marketing, because I think a lot of, they are now independent as I understand it, I think, but a lot of record label releases and marketing is just formulaic, you know. So they'll do the same. They'll buy the same advertising billboards. They'll do the same press. They'll do the same. Everything's the same, you know.
Yeah,
And I think
nothing's unique.
no, and I think that kind of fundamentally misses the point of music, you know. And we spoke about marketing earlier on about, you know, finding a way to engage fans. You know, I say to all of my artists that releasing a song, you know, band releases song is not a story. You know, you've got to find an angle that connects with people, which goes beyond music, because music alone is not that interesting, sadly enough. You know, that's why there's not that many music programs on TV. You know, it's about a culture and a lifestyle around music, right? So you've got to find that connection point. And I think Radiohead have always been really good at doing exactly that.
We'll send them this podcast, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know.
Oh,
you never know. All it takes is for one person to listen and say, yeah, I'm on it. I want to work with you. No, it's really good. If there was one quote that you could pick that would represent you as a person, what quote would you choose, and why would you choose that particular quote?
I'm going to tell you, I'm just looking it up because I can't. If I say it and go wrong, I'm going to get wrong. But
no, it's fine.
I actually have this on my Twitter profile. This is my own personal Twitter profile, which has almost no followers because I'm too busy doing music ones. But so the quote, I don't know actually where it comes from, but I really like this. And it says, "The distance between dreams and reality is called action." And I think that really kind of sums me up. I'm an action-orientated person. If I have an idea, I kind of want to make it happen as quickly as possible. I'm not someone who sort of dwells and thinks about it too much. I think, you know, I listen to a lot of kind of podcasts about sort of entrepreneurs and startups, and I think we're kind of common. I hear a lot of people saying things like, if you have a good idea, what typically happens is you tell all your friends about it and they talk you out of it, or your family, and they'll talk you out of it.
I always say to everyone, never tell anyone what you're doing. Always just do it.
Couldn't agree.
Because that way you don't have any energy on what you're doing, and it's only your energy because you're creating it and making it happen.
Yeah, totally.
I always say that to people, and I think that's really important for people to understand. I think people get really excited when they have an idea or something that inspires them and they want to tell someone, but sometimes we don't realize that the people we think are for us are not actually for us, which is a little bit of a shame.
Totally. I think they think they are for us, but they're kind of protecting us by saying things like, well, have you got the money to do that? Do you have the time to do that? You know, is that going to work? Do people really care about that? And by doing all of that, it puts you out.
Your mind.
Yeah, totally.
That puts question marks in your mind, and you start thinking to yourself, well, am I capable of doing it? And it's a little bit hard because it's kind of catch-22. Yeah, they are protecting you, but at the same time, you think, are they trying to put me down at the same time? Which is not what we want. We want to try and do something positive to help not just ourselves, but to help other people who are around us. So I understand it.
Yeah.
If you were stuck on a desert island,
I feel like I'm stuck in an island of sorts at the moment, I think.
Yeah, stuck at home. If you were stuck on a desert island and you had all the food and water that you needed, what one album would you bring with you?
Wow, that's really difficult. I think I'd probably go back to Black Chords, actually. So that band that kind of got me into this in the first place. So their debut album called Black Chords. I must have listened to it obviously a million times, but I think it's because it's got such a kind of place in my life. That would be a pretty good choice. I mean, there's tons, honestly, but I think that would be. I often do those, those things on Facebook where people say, tell me your 5 albums and put the artwork up and tell me, or don't tell me why they're important. But that album is always there or thereabouts in terms of being, a kind of one that stands the test of time, and it still sounds good to me. So yeah. Black Chords.
That makes total sense. If you had an unlimited budget when it comes to money, what would you change in the music industry, and why would you change that particular thing? It's a hard one.
Well, I think I don't know if it's. I think my frustration with the music industry might give us an answer. I'm not sure, and I'll work it through. But the reason I started a blog and started a podcast and all these things in the first place is that the music industry, I think, is a bit like a pub like 20 years ago, right? So when you used to go into a pub 20 years ago, you'd go up to the pumps and there'd be like 4 beers on tap, right? So it'd be Budweiser and Heineken and Carlsberg and Stella, but everyone knew there was thousands of other beers in the world, but you only ever saw 4, right? And the music industry is a bit like that with radio. So when you listen to the radio, or when you watch MTV with music awards or the Brits or anything, you can quite easily believe there's only 4 artists in the world, because those 4 artists will win everything, right? There's the Taylor Swifts and the Ed Sheerans and
Yeah.
And if you listen to radio, you hear the same 4 or 5 artists over and over and over again. I'm sure we've all worked in shops or offices where you have commercial radio on, and you just get so sick of hearing the same songs over and over and over again.
And you don't know how you know all the words as well.
Yeah, but it works, right? So the reason that way advertising works is about reach and frequency. Lots of people, lots of times, right? So the music industry recognizes that and says, well, if we're going to make hits, lots of people have to hear our music lots of times, right? So we have to have a small number of artists who they promote a lot to get big hits, right? Reach and frequency.
Yeah.
But the saddest thing about that model is that there's thousands, millions of other artists out there who make incredible music who don't get heard because of radio's only got so many hours in the day that people can get their music on, right? So
do you believe, Mark, that it's also who you know as well in the music industry?
Oh yeah, usually. Yeah, I don't think it's just music. I think it's just life generally. Do you know what
I mean? In general.
I think talent can get you so far. Then I think it's always just, if you know the right people at the right time, then there's other things at play. But I think Spotify, the big hope for Spotify was the sort of the bandwidth. Everyone could listen to their own radio station. Everyone could listen to the music they wanted to listen to. But of course, what happens again is that who controls Spotify? Well, it's the labels who put the content into Spotify, right? So all those playlists, so I'm talking about the Daydream Club again, where they got onto peaceful piano playlists, whatever, are now so tightly controlled by the record labels that the major labels will control who goes on those big playlists, right? So it's harder and harder and harder for independent artists to crack into those. So again, it's just like that kind of top being squashed down again. So it's always, I think that for me, it's always thinking, how can you kind of level the playing field? How can you get, go back to my festival, how can you get an unsung artist, alongside the likes of Ballydrawn Boy, and give him the audience which is, equivalent to that artist? That's the big challenge. I don't necessarily know the answer to it, but the kind of microbreweries, going back to my beer analogy, have done it in pubs now, where you suddenly have 50 different beers in the fridge, and the taps all along the front of the bar, all different beers. So what's the equivalent for music? How do you get that situation where more people can be heard by more people more often?
Yeah. Oh, what makes your company different from other companies? So what makes Right Chord Music different from other companies that are similar to yours?
Well, I think if I talk about Major Label, which is kind of part of Right Chord Music, so Major Label is our kind of management consultancy and kind of creative solutions bit, so kind of beyond the blog. There is a big difference, because I think most artists will work with a PR agency, or try to work with a PR agency, or a radio plugger, right? And Major Label's position is really based on that experience of the Daydream Club, which is to say, don't spend any money there, right? Because if you spend your money trying to get on radio, as I've just said, you might spend £1,000 on a radio plugger, and actually that radio plugger can't guarantee you any plays whatsoever, right? So you might get one spot play, and what we know about how advertising works is, again, reach and frequency, right? So if you don't have reach and you don't have frequency, you don't get momentum, you don't get fame, you don't get people to listening. So £1,500 for one play doesn't deliver anything, right? It just doesn't work. Radio is not set up to help unsigned artists. So from Major Label's perspective, we don't worry about any of the channels we can't control. Okay, the same with PR. So PR, exactly the same. Spend £1,500 on a PR agent who will say, we'll try and get you some blog coverage, right? But we can't guarantee you anything. So at the end of that campaign, your music might not be on any blog, or it could be on one blog, which no one reads, right? Again, reach and frequency, haven't delivered it, right? So what Major Label does really simply is it focuses on the channels you can control rather than what you can't control. So the great thing about social media is it gives you the opportunity for reach and frequency. So the biggest websites in the world right now are Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and all those things, right? So what we do is we work out how to market and and promote your music on your channels, on those channels where your fans are already congregated. So we kind of create effectively advertising campaigns for musicians to promote their music on their own channels. So that's why we're different. We don't work with any radio pluggers or any PR people. And
tell me a little bit about.
Yeah, go on.
No, go for it.
I was just saying, well, I guess the final part to that is, so it's all about own channel promotion, and it's all about getting people to listen, because I think, and we have this a lot.
I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah, totally. So like, again, we have artists who say, well, we've worked with radio pluggers and PR people for the last 6 months, and we spent this money, and actually when we look at our Spotify play count, the play count hasn't gone up. No one's actually listened. So what we try and do is to really zero in on that point of saying, here's the artist, here's the music, or here's the story around the music, now go listen, right? So all of our campaigns, the key objective is to get more people to listen, and it works. It's been working really well. So that's kind of our point of difference, I guess.
I think it's having the optimism as well, and that drive to keep you going. It's really good.
Yeah, thank you.
Tell me a little bit about RCM, the new music blog, which ranked top 10, I do believe.
Yeah,
it's top 10. Tell me a little bit about it.
I mean, Right Chord Music, so it started in 2010, and we try and write as much as we can. As simple as that. And I get sent like so much music, and as much as we can, we try and review, and we write about. Obviously, we only write about unsigned or independent artists. We try and steer clear of the artists who don't really need our support in quite the same way. We have, I guess, a growing number of kind of sections on there, but the new music part is really the key bit. We have a kind of a marketing sort of side to it as well. So there's a few articles there about approaches to marketing, and we're always looking for music reviewers and writers. So if anyone's listening who wants to review some music, then please do get in touch, because I only have so many hours of the day.
Oh, bless. I might take you up on that as well. How would you say that you push boundaries within your company to make people better themselves? I've heard quite a lot of it, because you do quite a lot, but how would you say that you continue to push boundaries, not just for them, but also for yourself within your company?
I guess, well, two things probably. One is constant learning. I think, we are surrounded by so much content, right? So whether it's podcasts or blogs or newspapers or books or whatever, it's like, I kind of think if you're not constantly learning, then I don't know why you're on this planet. Do you know what I mean? Like there's so much opportunity for it. Like it's just lazy not to, right? So it's harder not to sometimes, I think. So that's the first thing, is you can't accept the status quo. You've always got to be looking for the next thing. What's the next thing? What's the most interesting thing? We have a thing here in my house with my girlfriend and her son. Around the dinner table, we start by saying, what's the most interesting thing you've heard today or you've learned today? Because I think there are so many things going around you. So that's one thing. I'm just gonna. Sorry, I've just noticed my laptop is making noises, so let's turn it off. Stop that. And then I guess the second part is around getting people to question stuff and think why. So it goes back to kind of a lot of the major label work. When I'm working with an artist, again, they will come in there with their sort of determined assumptions, things about, the power of radio. We need to get on radio. We need to use YouTube. And I always say, well, why do we need to use YouTube? What benefit is YouTube to you? Talk to me about that. Because, again, most artists don't recognise that actually for YouTube, you can't monetize it unless you reach, I think it's 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours a month, right? And how many artists get that? Very few. Now, if you've been building that for years and years and years, and you've got to that point, then of course it's an interesting proposition, and it's still a massively powerful channel, but it's not right for everyone, right? And if you've got the choice of getting paid for every stream through Spotify, or not paid and not even people watching you on YouTube, which one do you go for? It's pretty straightforward. So questioning everything, I think, don't accept the status quo, and kind of try and flip things, think about things completely the opposite way, and say, well, what if we did do the opposite? What would that actually lead to? So I think sometimes that approach of just turning things on their head is quite a nice way of approaching things and thinking a different way.
Well, it is a really good thing. No, How would you say, like, what one memory would you say is your best memory that you've had so far from having your company?
Oh, there's a few, I guess. So I did a project, which was probably the moment where my music kind of clashed and coincided with my day job, which was pretty epic.
That's always going to happen, yeah,
Yeah. So I did.
at some point.
So we were Wavemaker were launching a new department, and I came up with this idea of taking an unsigned band and trying to break them in 10 weeks using just the power of content.
Oh, wow.
So no radio, no TV, just purely social media
Yeah, I
content.
saw that in one of your quotes.
Yeah.
You used the power of content.
Yeah, and we did it, right? So we took this band called Broken Whip Rebels, who are now signed to Universal, and I think probably the moment, so we got all this incredible support from the media industry. So we had this band on billboard ads all across the UK for free, right? Which was absolutely amazing. We got the band on the front page of YouTube for a day, which is just doesn't happen. All these media owners stepped up and said, "Yeah, we can show you the power of media," you know. But the moment where it really sort of kind of hit me, I guess, was the band played at the Isle of Wight Festival, and I was standing kind of side of stage, and they started playing their single, which was the song which got put on the front of YouTube, and the audience. First of all, when they first started playing, the tent was, let's say, half full. By the end of the first song, you know, it was rammed, and there's people queuing to get in and couldn't get in. Yeah. But they started playing this song, the current single, and the crowd started singing back to them. And there was just a look from the lead singer to me to say, "Oh my God, it's working! Like, this is working!" Like, because they weren't a known band, you know, they were unsigned, but suddenly they had 4,000 or 5,000, I'm not sure how many people in this like big tent in the Isle of Wight singing back, and I thought, wow, that's a powerful moment. I think that will always live with me, I think.
Define what success means to you, because everybody has a different term when it comes to the word success. But what does the word success mean to you?
Good question again. I think, so when I had this sort of epiphany moment with the Daydream Club, and I think they kind of summed it up nicely by saying this idea that at that point they'd given up on this idea of record label dreams and being signed and being, you know, this famous
I think
band.
A lot of people kind of given up on a record label dream. Yeah.
And to them, they was like, well, you know, happiness would just be to continue doing the things we love doing. So if we can carry on making music forever, then that makes us happy. So I think it's something along those lines, really. If I can do more of the things I love doing and fewer things of the things I don't like doing, then that's all it really is. I think, you know, it's like having a life. But you know what? One of the things about lockdown at the moment is when you're trying to run a company before work and after work, and you suddenly take the commute out of the equation, it's an absolute joy, right? So I get an extra 2 hours a day where I can focus on music, which is just phenomenal, you know. So
I think that's how I feel about the podcasting as well. Definitely.
So and I think, you know, you can't fake it, right? So nothing makes you get out of bed to write a blog in the morning. You only get out because you want to do it, or whether it's a festival or whatever, you know. So that's always a good test of me. If I really want to do this, I'll get up and do it. If I don't want to do it, I won't, you know. So I think that's another way of just kind of deciding whether you are really enjoying what you're doing, you know.
But was there ever a time where you thought to yourself, I want to give up, regardless if it was, because I know you've spoken about lack of money and maybe support. Was there ever a time where you felt like that yourself, where you felt like you didn't have the support that you needed, or lack of money? How did you get out of it, and what did you do to get out of it?
Honestly, no. I think I've always just had a sort of blind belief that if you I mean, it's kind of you've got to balance it out, because I always say to people, if you're going to fail fast, right? You don't want to kind of just keep on doing something which just isn't working. But if I look back, you know, at my blog, for example, and I look at the traffic to the blog, I see it's gone up, right? It goes up, you know. So I think if I was seeing that it was going down and down and down year on year and year, I would have stopped by now. Do you know what I mean? You know, I think it's frustrating sometimes, and so at the weekend with the festival, there was an artist who was co-headlining on Sunday with So just before Mark King from Level 42 had this artist called Officer, who I absolutely do. I think he's such a talent. And his webcam broke, right? So we had to cancel the show. We had to like basically pull it. And I was just like, this is such a frustrating moment, because you have this big audience of people who are primed to watch Level 42, and you're in a slot with independent artist into this mix, and it's like that could be his moment where suddenly someone goes, oh my god, why is he where he is? He should be touring the world. He should be bigger. And so we ended up kind of pre-recording the show, and I put it out the next day, and the audience for it is growing nicely, but there's moments like that where you think, oh, just quite a line, but I'm always kind of fairly optimistic. I think I can't be the only person who likes this stuff, and you can see the numbers that
there must be more
people,
yeah,
and I think it's just finding them again. It comes back to that marketing thing, really. It's like just zeroing in on the people who care and are those supporters and the people who share. I think one of the best things about the festival is not the views but the shares, right? So when you see that someone's been shared 30 times or something, you go, okay, that's great. That to me is the bit where people are really caring about this, so no, I stay positive.
Do you think that more people should learn about the music business, and not just, I know it's a great thing to have the talent and show that talent, but because you know so much about marketing, do you also think that it's good for an artist to know about the business side of music?
Yes and no. I mean, I think the problem in a way is that they think they need to know about the music business, and actually I think the music, there's two businesses, right? There's the old school record label business that again, to me, is a problem. It's a problem of why people spend money on radio plugins. It's a problem why people waste money on PR, right? Because that's what they're told they need to do. I think the business they need to get closer to is running a business, a startup. Like, think of themselves as an artist, as a startup, and think, how do I get myself out there? How do I promote myself? How do I use Google Ads? How do I build a website? How do I run Facebook ads? How do I, all these kind of things? How do I create a mailing list? How do I create content, social content? Those skills to me are way more important than understanding, the royalty splits between an artist and a label, because there's so much crap. You can read so many books talking about the old world industry, and actually, for 99% of the artists, they will never touch that industry, so focus on the industry you actually are in and create your own industry. Like, don't worry about the industry which isn't really for you.
No, that makes total sense. If there was one song out there that you wish you wrote, what song would you choose and why?
Oh goodness. I mean,
I have a feeling I might know what you.
Oh really? But... Oh goodness. I mean, I've got so many different answers in my head. I mean, if I was being a cynical marketeer, I'd probably say White Christmas or something like that. Just because you're going to get money every Christmas, right? But I think probably from a purist point of view, I don't know. I still love "Be My Baby" by the Ronettes. I think that's an absolute perfect song. I don't know. It could be. There's so many, I think, but yeah, they're two. Some kind of Christmas song, and the Ronettes.
Well, what would you say is your ultimate goal for your company and to achieve for your artists that you work with and help?
Well, first of all, to do it full time.
So, which you will. You know that.
No, absolutely.
Say I will, and it will happen.
Well, I think it's. I mean, major label, which really is the kind of the bit that provides an income. Really, the blog is just a blog. There's advertising money, but it's really only it's less than a year old in a serious way. So it's growing all the time, and that's definitely going to become a thing. I've got tons of other ideas as well. So I've also got a company called Squall, which is an influencer marketing platform, which is very much in startup kind of mode, but it's it's ticking on, and I want to scale that. What was the question?
I forgot it myself, to
Was
be
it?
honest.
I can't remember what you said. Sorry.
No, what is your ultimate goal?
Oh yeah, okay.
What is your ultimate goal for your?
Well, I guess
What is
So full time
yeah
would be one part of it. The second part, I think,
yeah
is do you know what? Again, go back to this lockdown thing. I've really enjoyed spending more time at home with my girlfriend and her little boy as well. So this idea of actually having to go to work, and spend 7-8 hours of a day away from the people you love, I much rather
yeah
spend more time with the people I love. So
at home?
yeah,
I think people are starting to realize that they can do everything from home.
yeah.
A lot of companies are at home, and they're realizing that why do we need a building
Yeah,
when
exactly.
we can all
Yeah,
do it at home? And technology is so good that you're able to just make a phone call, do everything by video, and the companies are actually starting to realize that. So it would be interesting to see when people get back to work how things actually develop.
yeah, no, totally. I think it's
Uh,
just about quality of life, isn't it? I think
yeah,
we've got
totally.
into the habit of the last few weeks of getting up and doing our Joe Wicks in the morning, which
Yeah.
is brilliant. I can barely walk, but it's good. Um, but suddenly again, if you go back to commuting, then you've got to find an extra 20 minutes in your day. That's a bit I'm normally commuting. I'm now doing Joe Wicks and drinking smoothies. It's like it's a good, at the moment, quality of life is good. I think I definitely want to get back outside again and hang out in a pub garden and see friends. Don't get me wrong, but I think from a
That'd be
pure
really
work
nice. Yeah.
perspective, I think I don't know. I think it's easy to forget what's really important. I think I'd rather spend more time with the
The
people
simple things.
that I love rather than
Yeah.
the people who I pay to go and spend time with.
No, that makes sense. It makes total sense. It's just valuing your time.
Yeah, totally.
It's just totally
Yeah.
valuing your time. What advice would you give to your fans or followers out there about being positive within the music business and in any business? Um, because for them, sometimes they feel like they're a little bit lost in the world. But what advice would you give them from you that you don't normally say on a podcast or to other people so they can get to know who you are?
I mean, reach out. I mean, happy to answer questions. If people want to, get in touch and get in touch. As you said at the start, like I kind of pride myself on being someone who is approachable. I can be quite
Yeah,
fierce sometimes,
I think
but
you
I'm
are.
really not. I promise.
I think you're approachable
Yeah,
because you came back to me really quick when I
yeah,
sent you a message. You came back really quick and you was like, "Yep, I'm happy to do it,"
yeah.
which is really nice. So
I don't really have too much more than that. I don't think. I think, like I said before, just questioning everything. Don't accept something just because that's the way that it's always worked. Doesn't mean to say it's right. Keep thinking
yeah,
about different ways of doing stuff and test things out. I mean, I
yeah,
think the greatest thing about sort of social media and things like that is you can always delete things, right? So if you post something on Instagram
that's
and it
true.
doesn't seem to be picking up any traction, just remove it. you know, um,
True. I've done
do
it.
something else. I
Yeah.
constantly delete stuff off my social media wall or my blog if if it just doesn't feel right anymore, and it's like it just goes. Do something else.
Tell us a little about your podcast. Let me help you.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
help
yeah.
me, let me help you.
Uh,
Tell us a little bit about your podcast, Lost. Is it
Lost on
Lost
Radio.
on Radio podcast?
Yeah. So
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about it.
it started really because a lot of, again, I wanted to have another way for people to be supported. And again, I can't write articles, but every musician that sends music to me. So it's like,
Yeah.
well, podcast is another outlet for that. I set out with a guy called Andy Moore, who is still a good supporter of Right Chord music, and he did probably the first 80 podcasts, I think. And then
Yeah, I've seen how many you have,
I
yeah.
think we're 286, I think now. He very selfishly went to have a family and left me in the lurch, obviously. so
No.
so I had to. I always remember this. I had like a week to learn how to do a podcast for the next week, because at that point we were doing it every week, and we do it every second week. And I was frantically watching YouTube
Okay.
videos, going, "How the hell am I going to do this?" And the first few, I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I just didn't like,
Why?
myself talking, recording my voice, all this stuff. It was, so I did a lot of kind of pre-recorded like little kind of stings, I guess if you like, and I got the artists to introduce themselves. I did everything I could to stop myself being on this podcast.
Your voice.
But slowly got easier, and actually now I always say to people, from a professional point of view, I actually really enjoy presenting now at work. I kind of get a bit of a kick out of it, and I swear it's because of the podcast, because I think if you
it is.
if you get used to
is.
talking on a podcast, once a week or whatever, and I think back to those days, I would write a full script, and I would try and read the script out on the podcast, and it sounded awful. So then you go, okay, I'm not going to write a script. I'm just going to kind of write key bits to get to, start, middle, and end. And every now and again, I just do it freestyling to see where it goes, and all sorts of stuff comes out your mouth. But it's a great exercise, and I think if you can do that, then it does help with other things, So, the general point of the podcast is supporting music that doesn't get played on radio or gets pushed to late night fringes of radio. So we normally have 6 artists or 7 artists a week, or each show, from anywhere in the world, and I really encourage music to be from anywhere in the world, because again, I think if you live in the UK and you listen to radio, you tend to hear music from the US, UK, and maybe one other country.
That is true.
So we have music from all the Scandinavian countries, we've had Japan, you name it, like pretty much every country. I think we've had listeners in over 150 different countries, which is really gratifying. So.
Mark, how do you know when you found talent? How do you know when you found the right artist to put on your podcast?
You just gotta love it, simple as that. I think the thing about music is this, I'm not musical. I can't tell you about the composition of a track. I can't tell you, what chords they're hitting or anything like that. But if it moves you, if it kind of has an impact on you,
has a connection.
Yeah, totally, exactly. I mean, I started working with an artist called Rhonda Merrick recently, who is, I hope you won't mind me saying this, but she's kind of in her mid-50s. Nice. She sent me this track, and it's just the heckles on the back of my neck just literally jumped up. I'm like, how have I not heard you? Like, your voice is so ridiculously good. You need, like, I will do anything for you. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's what music should do to you. Like, when you have that impact, like, you
I always say everyone has a time for them, and just because someone is 50, 60, 70, some people who are great and they may not be with us anymore had started when they were like 70 or 80, and it's amazing.
I think Bill Withers was quite late to it, isn't it? There's quite a few over time, but I think so. It's exactly that. It's got to be an emotional response. If music doesn't move you, then there's no point. Like, there's no point me making a podcast of stuff that doesn't excite me. So, and we play every genre again. It's not. I don't want to be limited to just rock or just pop or just whatever. It could be anything.
You're open to it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. We play some like, what's it called? Symphonic metal, which is probably a genre that I wouldn't naturally gravitate to. But
I've heard of that before.
But it's sort of heavy kind of metal and kind of violins and stuff. But again, it's like, if it sounds right, then go for it. So we will have like, and I deliberately will try and sometimes put tracks like that in to shake things up a bit, because I don't want people to feel uncomfortable, don't get me wrong, but I don't want people to feel too comfortable in the sense that they know what's going to come next. Like, I want people to go, oh, okay, I've never listened to that kind of thing before, but actually I quite enjoyed it, so
But it's thanks to people like you, Mark, that think out of the box, that make people realize, oh my gosh, this is something that could change my life. And you need more people like yourself to do that, because without you, the world would stay the same. Everyone will be comfortable, if that makes sense.
You're very kind. Thank you. I know. I mean, I'm happy to play my part. I think I agree with you. I think there needs to be more people who are brave and take risks. I think, from a music point of view, definitely.
Yeah, I think in every podcast, when I talk to everyone has a different way of life. Everyone has a different way of seeing things and doing things. But I think one of the best things is when you're not afraid of anything, and when you can break boundaries that people wouldn't normally break. And I believe that you're in that bracket.
Well, that's very kind of you.
And I always try to push people so that they understand that they're different, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. No, it's good.
Finally, yeah.
I agree.
Oh, it's good. It's really good. Finally, Mark, I have my last question for you. So I want you to plug like there's no tomorrow. Tell us where we can find you. All your social media
So Right Chord
platforms.
Music, so the blog is always just at Right Chord Music. So Right as in RAGHT, Chord as in CHORD Music. So that's Right Chord Music on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, we're always there. And obviously the website .com or .co.uk takes you to the same place. You can find the podcast through the blog. Major label is the consultancy business. That's major, spelled as you would expect it to be. Label, I've just knocked off the E, so it's labl.com. School music, our influencers, schoolmusic.co. Yeah, that's kind of pretty much the main places, I think.
Takeover Festival.
Takeoverfestival.com, yeah, or again, you can find it through the Right Chord Music Facebook page. If you want to watch back any of the performances, they're still up there. They'll stay up there, and you can still make donations as well to Lord of Robin. So, there's so much good music on there. I say like 50 artists or so to watch. So, head over to the Facebook page and have a good listen. Discover something new would be my my tip.
Definitely, I agree. Guys, go out and have a listen and share your thoughts with Mark, because I'm sure anything you say to him, he'll take in and make it into something big.
Yeah, always up for discussion. Definitely.
Mark, I want to thank you so much for coming to the Ask People podcast. I've really enjoyed our conversation today.
My pleasure. No, it's been fun.
Thank you so much. And guys, please always remember you can subscribe to the Ask People podcast by simply going on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. We are literally everywhere. The only place we are not on is SoundCloud at the moment. But you can also donate to the Ask People podcast by simply going to the PayPal account and simply But please always remember, guys, stay positive, stay happy, and continue to be kind to one another.